Thank you. Thank you, Brother Pigeon, for starting the recording. So let me start again. I would like to welcome all of you who have joined the meeting. Brother Barry, Anu Institute. Not sure who Anu Institute is, but I'm sure Brother Pigeon knows. Hopefully, you share your name with us later. Welcome, Brother Pigeon. Welcome, Sister Portia. And let me take the opportunity to thank you for your presentation on ALD. Anu from Barbados. Thank you. Sister Portia, for your presentation on ALD last Saturday. Well done.
Thank
Brother,
you, Professor.
you're
Thank you,
welcome.
Professor.
You're welcome. Brother, welcome. Thank you for joining us. General Raspala, thank you for joining us. And we thank you. Let's remind ourselves that it takes a lot of effort, dedication, and focus to attend these Thursday meetings every Thursday. And so I think it's right to appreciate you all for coming to these meetings regularly in a dedicated way every Thursday. So thank you very much. Brother Pigeon, come back. Let's see if your line is not working okay. So let's proceed, and as usual, we read in turns, and then we share our thinking. Not so much our opinions, but our thinking. What is going through our mind as we read or as we hear it being read. So we normally go around and hear everybody's thinking, and this is a free and safe space, which means that do not feel inhibited to share your true thinking, what you're really thinking. You don't have to agree with the text. Feel free to disagree with the text that we are reading, but share your thinking. But similarly, welcome anyone challenging your thinking. Everything we do here in terms of sharing our thinking is done with respect and with love and with support. So we're all learning. We're all here because we want to learn, and we've come from various directions. So in a way, no one here is an expert. We're all experts, if you like, and we're all learners. So feel free to share your real thinking. Don't feel that you shouldn't. And please, you don't need to apologize to anyone for your thinking. Your thinking is your thinking, and it's your right to think for yourself and to think what you want to think. But you don't have to apologize to anyone for your thinking, and you certainly don't need to apologize for how long it takes you to say what you want to say. Again, it's a safe space. We are here to support one another, and so that's what this space is for. We share our discussions on YouTube, and the reason is so that we can widen the debate among the Pan-African community. There is no group apart from us today that are consistently discussing and sharing the philosophy and ideology of radical Pan-Africanism. As you know, Pan-Africanism has three broad strands. There is the conservative strand, the liberal strand, and then there is the radical strand. Similarly, there are three broad perspectives in terms of how people see Pan-Africanism. So there are those Africans who are very interested in the past, and they have a lot of knowledge about the past, and some dwell exclusively on the past. Ancient Egypt, the Anunnakis, which are the origin, as we know, of us, as Brother Raspala explains, and so on. Then there are those Africans who focus only on today and what they can make out of the world today. You see them as the presidents of most of the countries. They're interested in only stealing today. They're interested in looting the public purse and so on. And for them, what is important is how much they can steal today. They don't care what happens tomorrow to Africa. So that's the second broad group in terms of perspective. Then there's a third group who are us. And we are interested in the past. We're also interested in the present. And we're also interested in the future of Africa. And so you see here a variety of us thinkers. You have those of us here who are experts on the past, like Ras Bala. There are those of us who are experts on today. And there are those of us who are very interested in the future and even want to be the president of any of the territories, like Bra, the Pigeon. So you can see that we here, if you like, embody all the perspectives. Now, there are only two philosophies on this planet, as we should all know by now. They are the idea that the universe is made up of ideas and spirit. That's the one way to understand the world. And then there is the alternative, which is materialism, which says that the universe is made up of matter, and that our universe is a natural universe, and its basis is matter and its laws. So those are the two contending philosophies. And a lot of us Africans have come from the idealists' background because of religion, spirituality, and belief in spirits and ghosts and things like that. So we have come from that background. So it's been very hard for Africans to embrace materialism. But it doesn't mean that if you embrace materialism, you must give up your belief in spirituality, because consciousness affirms spirituality as well. So welcome. At the end of the day, we're all free to believe what we want to believe. Nobody is being asked to believe anything they don't want to believe. But we are asking that you interrogate your own beliefs. Don't just believe something because it's been handed down to you or because it's convenient. You know, as a philosopher, as a Pan-Africanist, as someone who wants to help Africa, you need to interrogate your beliefs, and the best way to do it is to do it philosophically and ideologically. So the time is 7:16. As you all have noticed, normally by now I haven't even joined you yet, but luckily we are on holiday this week, so I can join you early. So let's proceed with the reading. I'm going to read and you listen, and then if you want us to reread it again, that's fine. And then we'll then share our thinking. So here I go. Let me welcome those who have since joined us. Sister Ida, welcome. Brother Sam, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, General, I think I've welcomed you already, but welcome again.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Sister Myra, welcome. Right, so let me read. And so normally we read very slowly. We don't rush, as it's not a reading club. So we take our time and we read. And we read slowly so that people can follow the reading, and then they can, if you like, conceptualize their thoughts and structure their thoughts as the reading goes along. And by reading slowly, they can also then join their thoughts. So that is the point of the reading. So we read very slowly. So here I go. Brother Barry used to read for us when we used to meet in person, face to face those days. This is many years ago now. So here I go. Another example of a similar phenomenon can be found in Freud. Sigmund Freud believed that nothing was ever forgotten by the individual. He did not, through this, imply that the individual consciously remembered everything. On the one hand, it is because the individual did not consciously remember everything that psychoanalysis was necessary as a probe into the subconscious and the unconscious. On the other hand, it is because nothing was really forgotten that psychoanalysis is possible at all. For everything is there for it to probe. Thus, according to Freud, all our experiences are stored up and they affect our overt behavior, even if we have no conscious memory of the experiences themselves. End of reading. Should we read again, or are you happy for us to start sharing thinking? We can reread if you want.
Did we finish? Did we do the reading above it before
No.
last week, or did we skip one? I'm sure we didn't skip because Brother Pigeon is very good, but I know we had two things to
let
read.
me ask, Brother Pigeon, scroll down, let's see. Yes, I think
we read that last week.
We did.
Okay,
We
good.
did. Except that people shared their thinking on what they thought was important for them. And you will notice that some of us, like Sister Portia, handles or responds to every sentence and breaks it down.
Yes.
But like we said, everyone is free to share what they think, how they feel, how they see fit. There's no one way to respond to a text or a series of texts. Everyone responds to their text. One of the things that we ended with, if it's okay, we don't have to reread it again. We can if you want. One of the things that I ended that discussion with, if all of us will recall, was what was our philosophy and ideology. And Brother Pigeon responded, conscientism. Then I asked, what is our general rule for conduct? And the response was that the welfare of the people is the supreme law. So for us, that is the ultimate rule for conduct, or the rule that the Pan-African society should live by. We must strive that the welfare of the people is what drives everything. In fact, in Ghana, that became what was called chapter 12, I think, of the 1992 Constitution. It wasn't spelled out like that, but there was a chapter in the Constitution. It's still there, although nobody basically implements it, but it's in the law. So yeah. Anyway, so it's either if you're happy, we can share our thing, or we can read it again. And by this time, somebody else will read, not me again. Are we happy with our thinking, or should somebody read again? What do we think?
Share the thinking.
Share the thinking. Okay. So let's proceed then. We would like to hear from a brother and a sister in that order, so that we balance the sacred duality. So Brother Anu, you can start for us, as you are keen to share your thinking. Thank you.
Okay, well,
I hope you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. This is my first time. Greetings.
Okay. Greetings.
Jumbo, right. Interestingly enough, my undergrad is in psychology.
Oh, wonderful! So you've come to the right meeting then. Because now you are going to explain to us what is psychoanalysis. What is psychoanalysis? Some of us don't know. Some of us only know that Sigmund Freud was Jewish and that he was a psychoanalyst. He invented the profession, but we don't know a lot. So maybe you can tell us more about that in due course. Okay. Yeah, but brother, carry on, share your thinking. And when you are sharing your thing, we all keep quiet. We let you speak, and then when you finish, we'll then move on. Yeah. Nobody normally will come back to you. We could, but not normally. Sometimes we'll ask you to explain something, or somebody will say, "Can you explain this?" But we let people express themselves freely. So please carry on. Thank you.
Right. Freud got the credit for psychoanalytical theory, but the concept that he came up with, a lot of it is based in African epistemology. When you study Freud, you will see on his desk, he had a lot of figurines with the deities of Heru, Uset, Usar, and so forth as well. So, but that's another story. I'll just deal with this one. What Freud was saying is that memories can be repressed and appear to be forgotten. But to remember something, you have to be able to retrieve the memory. But it resides in the unconscious mind. You see? And so if you look at the what we were taught was, if you look at the iceberg, or if you look in the African concept, and we utilize a tree, say a baobab tree, you see the tree up top, but underneath the tree, you see the roots, and the roots go very deep and spread out. So what do we see on the surface of an iceberg or a tree would be the conscious mind. Underneath would be the unconscious. And then there's the collective conscious. So what he's saying is that the information is in the unconscious mind. Now, if, say, for example, you got in a car accident and you were what they call unconscious. Consciously, you're unconscious, but unconsciously, you're conscious. Okay? The unconscious mind is actually recording everything. Even things that you don't consciously recognize, the unconscious mind is recording everything. So sometimes your behavior, how you feel, everything is actually a direct result of an unconscious experience. So while the person is unconscious, somebody may say something about, I gotta go and buy some, I gotta go and get some chickens or whatever. And the person is remembering that. But that memory is stored in the unconscious mind. And so that is my thought right now on that. But we have to look at things collectively from an African psychological perspective. And when we look at things like post-traumatic slavery syndrome, when we look at intergenerational trauma. These things are passed on from generation to generation. But I don't want to divert too far. So what I would just go back and say is that it is agreed that memories reside in the unconscious, and even when you are unconscious, you are consciously you are picking information up while you are what we call unconscious, like when you are sleeping. They say you should not sleep with the TV on, because although you consciously are not paying attention, the subconscious mind is recording information.
Thank you so much, brother Nuti, for your insightful thoughts. I'm sure you will come back and explain more. Before we carry on, are there any words that anyone would like explained? Luckily, we have a specialist in the house. So if anyone wants a particular word explained, let's deal with that before we move on. Otherwise, we can just carry on with the next person. Brother, welcome. Is there any word you would like us to dig into today? Are you happy with all the words?
Maybe,
Yes, good to
maybe.
read.
Yeah, sister Ida, hold on. Let brother welcome. Yeah, brother, welcome. Then you can come in, Sister Ida. Yes, brother, welcome.
Can I list them all at once?
Yeah, you want to list them where in the chat?
Yeah, no, I mean like to mention them all.
Yeah, mention them, and the brother specialist, so he will pick them up. Brother Anu will pick them up.
At least we have looked at both subconscious and unconscious.
Okay, yeah.
That was two of my queries, but the other two are like psychoanalysis, what it entails.
Okay.
And
that's number 3.
Superenco.
Oh, the super ego.
Oh, is it super ego?
Sorry. Maybe I'm reading. Sorry, let me see.
Yeah, is that same word?
Yeah, sorry. Where is that? Is that part of the text we just read? I don't remember reading super ego.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
Maybe
Freud,
you picked that from.
Freud.
Yeah, I know Freud. Yeah, I know Freud referred to it, but it's not in the text we've read. But if you want that explained as well, Brother Anu, please, can you respond to those? Give us an exposition of those words: subconscious, again, unconscious, psychoanalysis, and superego. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. Hold on, Sister Ida. Did you want to say anything before Brother Anu responds?
No, I was just thinking that maybe, even though we think we know, maybe we could have got psychoanalysts. I'm glad Brother Welcome brought it up. Thank you.
That's a good observation. Our elders say that even when you know, you can still ask. Brother Anu, Sister Ida, thank you. Brother Anu, over to you.
Okay, so basically, I'll deal with ego, id, and super ego. Again, according to Freud, he came up with he interpreted an African concept where the id is a part. Okay, we have to look at the brain as well too, right? We have to look at the reptilian brain. What is the lower limbic part of the brain, the midbrain, and the frontal cortex, or the high brain. And when we look at this, we see that the human being, that the lower brain is created first, then the midbrain develops, and then the high brain is developed afterwards. The lower brain are things that functions with things like your urges, your needs, your need for sex, your need for food, your need for water, the basic carnal things. Give me, I want, mine. Those things are associated with id. And some people categorize people and races like id races and so forth, and but I don't concur with that as aspect. But basically, the id is that part of the psyche that's like a child that wants things. The ego is what you think you are, that you and I are separate from the neter or the neteru, that we are separate from nature, okay? So the ego thinks that it is an individual as opposed to a collective, or that you are part of everything. So the ego is who you think you are, and the superego is another aspect of the psyche that is like an altruistic aspect where, and I'll break it down to simple terms. Even with there are movies that came out where you have a guy who had a devil to the left and an angel on his right shoulder. And he's trying to listen to both of them as to what should he do. So let's just say, for simple context, that the devil on the left would be the ego, would be the id. The one I want gives me mine, carnal nature, aggressive, those kind of things. And the one on the right, let's say that would be the angelic aspect. You can do better, you're a good person and do the right thing. And then the ego now chooses which thought they're going to listen to. So then the human psyche, according to Freud, was divided into, and it was also supported by Carl Jung, his protege as well, who went a little bit further than he did, but it's broken into id, ego, and superego. But we have to understand this. We experience in the world as, if you look at it from a Eurocentric point of view, as an individual. As far as I studied with African cosmology or the African worldview, is that we are everything. When you close your eyes and you start to go into high levels of meditation, you'll find, first of all, that once your eyes is closed, you're no longer a slave of the body or have a concept of a physical body. So once you can go beyond your five senses, touch, hearing, smell, those senses and sight, then you begin to become one with the neter or the neteru or the cosmic ocean of nu, right? So you go beyond the physical now, and then you understand that actually we are all the same. We just have an experience that we are separate. And that is an aspect that goes a little deeper than what Freud is talking about. So even though I studied and I did well at the university, at the State University in New York, I understand it from an African point of view, because while I was in the United States, I studied with Professor Ben Yakinen. I met Dr. Anthony Browder. I met Dr. Belenga Karinga. I met a lot of different, there were a lot of different Pan-African psychologists, Naeem, Akbar. You know, I mean, I can go on and on and on, yeah? But the thing is that we must take what we're learning about today, about what Freud had mentioned, and understand that, as even what the Dogon said, there are levels to understanding. And that's just a simple term. So when he talked about psychoanalytical theory, a lot of it is really based upon making the unconscious conscious. If you do not know you have a problem, there's no way in the world you're going to solve that problem. You have to say, you know what? This is the problem. And even when you find the problem, it may take you a while to resolve it, master it, overcome it, and to renew your mind. So, but you cannot do it unless you make it conscious. So Freud, Carl Jung, a lot of psychologists, Western psychologists, have come to even when they use things like there are many ways as well. I'm sorry to digress a bit, but there are many ways that you can actually.
Brother, don't apologize. Please carry on.
No, it's just okay.
Hey, now don't apologize. You're educating us. Please carry on.
I will say something and then I will stop, right? Because I can go on and on. Let me just say this as well. You see, to make the unconscious conscious, sometimes what they do is go to various therapies. One that they taught was to even look at clouds and ask the person, what image do you see in a cloud? You can look at a pattern design on a, say, a bed sheet or something with little light. And your mind, because of your experiences, can create images that are not really there. But what it does, it actually brings the thought to your mind. There are people who see things and it's, oh, that's a man and woman having sex. Oh, that's a man stabbing another man or something. And it's like, it's not really there, but it's in their mind. And so the psyche now looks at things, and if you do not become conscious of the shadow self and what is going on in your subconscious mind, perhaps what is causing your anxiety, right, or your past, based upon past traumas that you could have forgotten. You could have been a child, and somebody could have frightened you or did something to you, and it actually affects you as an adult, and you don't know why. So I started getting into something called hypnotherapy as well, where you actually start looking and start to go into a hypnotic state of consciousness, an altered state of consciousness. That is why a lot of the ancestors used to deal with things that would make them go into another realm to make what? The unconscious conscious. I will stop there and you guys can talk. Sorry for talking so much.
No, don't apologize. So we'll hear from another person, a sister, to share their thinking. But before that, so Brother Anu, so you met Dr. Ben?
Yes. 1983. I was going to City Tech in downtown Brooklyn. He was a professor. He's the first person that introduced me to the Kemetic philosophy.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. And you also met Dr. Karenga?
Yes, Dr. Miguel Karenga, when I graduated from high school, he came to the high school and he came there. I spoke to him subsequently as well.
Yeah.
Well, there are some things that I agree with him on, and it's something I disagree with him on. I think that the foundation of his work is wonderful. I believe in a lot of his teachings.
So do you mean Dr. Karenga or
Dr. Karenga? Yes, Dr. Karenga.
Right.
Yes, Karenga. Because when I came to Barbados, I was promoting Kwanzaa, and he told me that Kwanzaa was really for African Americans. It wasn't for anyone else. And I thought for a man of such great stature, was a little bit on the limited side. However, I took that, the ideas, what they call the Unguzu Sabas, Umoja, Nia, Kuchachakalia, and so forth, Nia, and so forth, and looked at it from a human development point of view, because my thing is human development. And so what I would do is to create a program in Barbados that can actually look at community building and self-improvement. And I've taken things from Freud and different people as well and put it in an African-centric cipher. But anyhow, but yes, I've met
right.
I'm afraid I think some of us have been left behind with who Dr. Ben is. What's his last name, please?
Yeah. Dr. Ben Joachim. Yeah. Go on, brother.
Yeah, we called him Dr. Ben Yakinen. I think his mother was from Puerto Rico, I think, but his father was from Ethiopia, and he was part of the Beta Israel, what do you call it, tribe in Ethiopia. He was an Egyptologist. He had a lot of the different curriculums under his belt, and rightly so as well, because in the Western world, we focus on one thing. We focus on either engineering, computer science, medicine, but in the African, if you go back to Kemet, they had the 7 liberal studies. And within it, you study astronomy, you would study health, you would study mathematics. You can focus on one thing, but you are more well-rounded, so that when a problem presents itself, you will not look at it like every problem. If you were a hammer, every problem appears to be a nail. But if you have different tools now, you can use different things. So Dr. Ben was someone who had different tools in his toolkit. And myself as well, I studied medicine, I studied psychology, I studied physiology, kinesiology, biomechanics. I'm really looking at a mind-body medicine now and spirituality. I was also looking to do something in spirituality because we can't be put in a box. The African consciousness cannot be put in a box.
Right. Yeah, Brother Anu, clearly you have a lot to tell us. I think there is a saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And I think you've joined us at the right time. And some of the things you mentioned go back to what philosophy meant in terms of wisdom. And in those days, when you went to learn from the African priests, you learned all aspects of life, like you have mentioned, and not just one thing. So thank you. Let's hear the thinking of others, and then we'll come back to you during the next. It's now 7:44 GMT, London time. So let's hear from Sister Ida.
Sorry, can I come in as the next lady? Because okay,
That's fine.
Okay, it's all right. Sorry, there were some talkers here. So let me see what I can say.
What is your thinking?
Yes, I am glad that we had a lot of this explained, because I would have just gone for what I knew of Freud. And
what do you know of Freud?
Sorry?
What do you know of Freud?
Not a lot, apart from he sounded a bit like a sexual maniac with what they taught us. So I did really have high knowledge of him in any other way. So I thank Brother Anu for telling us what he has. I think that this, because even this reading doesn't really tell us much about him, apart from he thinks that there's a conscious and unconscious mind, which is what I've got. I love the analogy of the iceberg or the tree, because then it does explain a lot of the things that we don't understand about our minds. For me, it does anyhow. I find it interesting that all experiences are stored up, and I'm very bad at night with actually turning things off and not listening. I sort of like to fall asleep with noise, whether it's someone talking or radio. So the days of when I had to sleep with everything silent have gone. So I thank you for that as well, because now I'll consciously try and turn things off. I don't really have much more to say about this, but it's amazing what people can tell us from such a short paragraph, and I really appreciated what we heard from the first speaker. Thank you.
Yes, but he hasn't even started the African dimension.
Well, exactly, but
which he will, because you remember when we looked at Socrates, Aristotle, we brought in the African dimension, where we knew that he stole our own knowledge and then repackaged it and so on. And that's not
so to hear that Freud has also done the same thing. It's like,
I sent a message in the chat today where Sister Chizomo shared a message about the language Afrikaans. Brother Sam can enlighten us on this. So, Brother Sam, I don't know if you saw the message, but the message was that Afrikaans is actually of African origin, and that the Europeans who spoke it, and they took it from the Africans who were speaking it, because it was a kind of pidgin. But Sam, this is what Sachizomo shared with us. It was a video. And then I said that no child is greater than her mother or their mother. And I say that symbolically to say that no child of Africa, and all groups, their mother is Africa. So no one, I don't care who you are, wherever in the world, I don't care what your technology you have, you cannot be greater than your mother. You can disrespect your mother, and a lot of people do, disrespect their mothers. You know, some of them disrespect their mothers to the extent that they even I don't want to use the term here because it's used as a swear term, so I wouldn't use it. But they go as far as disrespecting their mother sexually, you know. But you can never be greater than your mother. I don't care who you are and how powerful you are, you know. And that is why the idea that somehow some men are more important or greater or whatever than women is just not true. It's just not true. But anyway, that's not the topic for the paragraph we are reading. Sister Ida, can I ask you, before we move on to the next speaker, can I ask you, what do you think, why do you think Nkrumah brings in Sigmund Freud, according to this paragraph?
Why? I'm not sure. Let me just.
Okay, if you're not sure,
I'm not sure because it says it's a similar phenomenon. That's why I first said we read the paragraph above, because I couldn't fully remember it.
But do you remember what we dealt with in the previous paragraph? What was the
That's
main
why I'm
topic?
saying a similar phenomenon, and I'm thinking, oh, what was it last week? That was the phenomenon.
Okay, we were dealing with morality and conduct. You remember now? Morality and conduct. That's what we were dealing with last week. How people behave, moral principles.
Yeah, I don't fully remember it too well. I know we were discussing a whole load of different things, but I don't fully remember the paragraph too well.
Okay,
but I can see that Sister Portia remembers it.
We
so
have
you know,
on the
obviously.
screen. Sister, hold on, Brother Pigeon. Just so you know, we have from you work easier with WPS Pro. So just be mindful that it's showing on our screen. Now the screen has disappeared. If you bring it up, we can continue. So your sister Portia wants to come in. Did you say?
No, I said she obviously remembers it well.
Excellent.
But better than I do. But I don't really fully remember it last week's. Sorry. So I couldn't tell you what the similar phenomenon was.
Yeah. Can you share your thinking, please?
Who are you asking? Me?
Unmute yourself, Brother Sam.
Yeah, Brother Sam, thank you.
Oh, thanks. I didn't hear my name being called.
That's okay.
But yeah, having listened to the inputs, I think you are right, Brother Kwame. If you take the previous paragraph we read, and especially where Kwame was saying we should know that these experiences or these skills, we are developing them from generation to generation. What our forebears has been doing, have learned, have mastered, they hand it down to the offsprings. And I think even today, it's bring up something that, even something that you have experienced, it can go into your system, but it can go down into your subconsciousness. I think we can have the experience of when you go into an exam room, you have read, you are ready for the exam, but there's a time when you have to answer a certain question that you knew, and suddenly it is completely dim. You can't even remember that. And once you are outside of the classroom, you say, oh, but this is what I should have written. So he's reminding us that in life, even if we didn't experience something or we have experienced it, we should know there's a time in our system where we tend to sort of forget, as we say, forget. But it's not forgotten. It's something in the subconscious mind, and from time to time, that has to be brought forward. And I think this tells us about the societies that we live in. We should not forget our past. We must always use our past to bring ourselves into today's situation, and then for that, use that for the basis of our future. I think that is that in my society we have a learning that, for instance, a young child, we tell them, don't touch this. But as a human being and nature, the child will touch that. And it's only after maybe that is a stove or a hot plate or a fire, once he has burned, that experience then goes back. And that child will never do again that something when it's in front of a fire. And that is the experience that I think Kwame is trying to show us, that we need to learn and understand that everything that has happened in our past, we need to take it forward into the future. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Brother Sam. Let's go to Sister Portia.
Thank you so much, Professor Kwame, and thank you again for your kind words last week and also some minutes ago. Thank you. Okay, I will take the sentences line by line as usual, my thinking on them. I do want to thank the King Brother Anu for his points and, you know, just the clarifications around where psychology began, or the study of psychology began. And I also noted what Professor Kwame said about mothers, and, you know, Africa is the mother, so you can't be disrespectful to the mother, if I heard him correctly. And it's interesting, he said that because the controversies around Freud and his mother. And this goes to Sister Ida's point as well. So when I hear his name, I immediately get triggered, and I'm pensive about why Dr. Nkrumah would have referenced such a person, because Dr. Nkrumah obviously was very well read and very well knowledgeable. So a non-African referencing that person to tell us about African, which possibly could be back to the point of morality. It's not necessarily good or bad, to Professor Kwame's clarification last week. So this is the starting point. Usually I don't do that. Freud, as I mentioned, is a trigger to me. The first sentence references Freud. The second sentence mentions that an individual doesn't forget. So if we're not talking about dementia, if we're not talking about Alzheimer's, an individual doesn't forget. The third sentence says that doesn't mean that individuals, that they don't, pardon me, one second. Yeah, it's that individuals, that caveat is that individuals don't consciously remember everything. And then the fourth sentence here is where the psychoanalysis is necessary, because that individual did not necessarily, or individuals don't necessarily consciously remember everything. So now there becomes, you know, trying to get into that other stuff that's not remembered. And that is the probing into the subconscious and the unconscious, because the premise, again, is that nothing is not forgotten, to sentence number 2. And then the last sentence further explains that experiences are stored up, and this affecting overt behaviors. It was noted here, it wasn't covert, it was overt behaviors, even if there's no conscious memory of whatever is causing those behaviors. Thank you. I yield.
Yeah, Sister Portia, thank you very much. May I ask you, though, what you had in mind in terms of the referencing of Sigmund Freud? Not all of us know about him and his mother. Do you care to share that? Or feel free to if you want to. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kwame. There was just a connection break on my side, not yours. Please, may you repeat that last part of your question to me? Thank you.
Yeah. I was asking if you care to share with us what was in your mind in terms of your thinking with respect to the sharing of Sigmund Freud in this paragraph, and whether or not not all of us know about Freud and his mother. So if you would like to share that with us, we'll be grateful.
Thank you. I need to put this in context. I was talking about your comment about, holding mothers in high regard. And I'm thinking you were talking about Africa. And then I was saying it's interesting because in contemporary times, so in this 21st century, there are a lot of allegations or sizable allegations about Freud and his relationship with his mother, and particularly around sexual relations. Now, I'm sure there'll be feedback on that, but this is why I said allegedly, and there have been allegations. Now, Professor Kwame obviously wouldn't have known that if we're looking at the time of when the book was written, yet he was well read. So I am very curious of why he would reference that psychologist who was a non-European when this book, and of course I'm still reading, is so much about breaking out of such a oppressive structure. Why wouldn't he have mentioned, for example, a conscious African psychologist at the time? I know they were there. So this is my post question to Dr. Kwame and Nkrumah if I was sitting next to him, for example.
Okay, no, that's clear. You can always ask him though, can't you? He will come and answer you in a dream.
Yes, that's what he said. King brother, I knew.
And Brother Adam will help you do that. So in terms of Freud and sexuality, let me just mention that it is believed that Freud got his Brother Anu can add more to this if he wants to later. But in Greek mythology, Oedipus killed his father Laius and unknowingly married his mother Jocasta. And this is a central part of the Oedipus myth, a story that explores fate, free will, and prophecy. And it's believed that that is what Freud was investigating. There's a lot to it that we won't go into now, but yeah, in terms of the sexuality and his mother, so it was Oedipus who ended up basically having sex with his mother, but after killing his father, but that was unknowingly. But what if it was knowingly? That is a different question. Right. Let's now hear from a brother. Let's go to Brother Coco. Thank you. Unless Brother Coco has said something in the chat that I haven't read. Brother Coco. Can Brother Coco hear me? Brother Coco is not responding. It's possible he's unable to speak where he is. So let's go to Brother Joseph, please.
Yeah, I'll pass Welcome because I'm not quite prepared for this session. I mean, I've struggled with the fact that I'm torn between different tasks, but I struggle to commune on it without sufficiently preparing myself. But what I can say about what I briefly read is that about the thing about we don't forget. Nothing is forgotten. There is evidence from neuroscientists and so on, including people like Dr. Joe Dispenza and so on, that are showing that the body and there are other neuroscientists that say the body keeps the score. I mean, everything that we experience, everything that been done is recorded. Yes, we may not be remember it consciously. Even the CIA had done study and maybe still continue to do the study how they could even draw out on people what people know. I mean, some of the books that I remember the famous book, The Hidden Persuader by Vance Packard and so on, that they could really, I mean, you know, if seriously wanting to know what you know or what your experiences can do, they have techniques that they can get to those what you know through hypnotism and all of that kind of stuff. So there is some truth. We don't forget that nothing is forgotten. Because if spirit and matter is the same, I mean, they're connected, and nothing is lost. It's just a matter of getting the technology to uncover what have gone on in the both the subconscious and unconscious of a person. So that I would see for now. I hope it makes sense with what I've spoken to, what others have spoken to before.
Brother Joseph, you always make sense. Thank you very much. This is a general question for all of us. You don't have to, nobody needs to answer this. And it is a question, it's a philosophical question. It is this: if the brain is material, is flesh, basically, it's flesh and blood, that's the brain. And when we die, it is buried. And when it's buried, it rots and decays and becomes part of the earth. Yeah. How can it be the storehouse of unending remembrance? How can the physical brain, after it has basically decayed and become part of the earth, how can it then remember anything? And so that's a philosophical question. There are those who believe that we can remember not just everything in this life, but in all the lives that we have ever lived, going back to however long. There are those who believe that, and so on and so forth. I'm just raising these. Why are all these things important? That's what we need to be dealing with also in when we share our thinking. Why is Nkrumah sharing? The sister Portia has raised a very interesting question, and her question was, why would Nkrumah quote Sigmund Freud in his book? Yes, precisely. Why? So when we are sharing our thinking, shall we also address why we think? We may not be there, we may not know when Nkrumah stood in front of his compatriots in the philosophy club at Flagstaff House. That's where it all started, when he wrote everything when he illustrated everything on the board and said, this is what I think about, this is what I think. They discussed it, and that became the book Consciences that we're reading now. We were not there, but others were there. Those who were there, like Eric Heyman, have written about it. But anyway, what do you think? That's a question. So let's go to Brother the King Mauli, as Brother Coco was not able to speak. The King, what do you think?
Oh, for me, what I think mostly depends on, sometimes anomalies do happen in people's life. However, there are always positive side and good side of everything. We can always see the positive side and leave the good side. However, to say that, why do the mind, if truly it's a storehouse for an infinite brain universe, then why does it rot? That is questions for the gods.
But that's a question. I just raised that question because of the idealist materialist dimension. Because
exactly.
It's possible that those who believe that are idealists. I mean, the idea that the brain a brain that rots or decays somehow is a storehouse for infinite knowledge is questionable, or maybe it's true. I don't know. So I just raised that. But Deki, you don't need to address that. Just address the paragraph we've read. I just threw that in because it came up. Thank you.
Okay, the paragraph I just hopped in, but I've not read that part. I've not really gone through yet. However,
okay, do so,
for the
and then
question,
I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Okay, but for the question, the one you asked, should we say that the brain is an infinite storehouse for the body when it is alive, or when it's dead? Should we limit it to that?
But the body also decays.
It's the case. I mean, when the body is alive, I mean, when the person is alive.
When the thing decays, it decays. It becomes part of the earth. So how can it store anything
be an infinite?
It's become, how can it store anything when it's become part of the earth? Unless the earth itself is a storehouse. Anyway.
A storehouse on itself.
Yes, unless
okay.
Anyway, let's thank you, Brother the King. Read the paragraph as you said. I'll come back to you if you have any more thoughts to share. Let's now go to a Sister Myra, please. Thank you. Sister Myra. Yeah. Brother Pigeon, somehow when you put your mic on, it sounds like a radio that is tuning into a station but hasn't quite got the station yet. That's the sound we are hearing. Sister Myra, are you able to share?
She said she can't speak.
Okay.
If I should come in here to answer the question you asked about the mind, with the brain.
No, brother, that was just thrown in philosophically. Let's focus on the paragraph in front of us. When we have time, we can deal with that. We can hear you, but there's a lot of shoe sounds in the background. Not sure why that is the case.
Even now, as I'm speaking.
Yes, even now. If you can log out and log back in, yeah, log out and log back in, see if that will help. Yeah. Thank you. Let's go to. I think all the sisters have now spoken. So let's hear from. Yeah, all the sisters have now spoken. Samara says she can't speak. So yeah. So Brother Coco, can you speak now? Brother Coco? All right, but Coco is not responding at all. So let's see. Everyone has spoken. General hasn't spoken. General. Raspala.
Yes, my elder. Give thanks.
Are you ready to speak?
Yeah, you know.
Before you speak, let me say this. The sister Tapua is not here. I wish she was. Because I think what we are reading is something that will appeal to her really greatly. So, Raspala, before you speak, I want to read this. It's from African Law, LORE. Amugbeto, which is man. Man, are you a tree? No. Man, male and female, by the way. Are you a fish? No. Man, are you an animal? No. What are you then? Then man responds, I am so, Hato, the absolute, unlimited, blissful cause of all existence, the source of knowledge and bliss. I am Ba, Hano, the all-embracing creative power, the source of all life. I am Amu, the source, the sum total of all cosmic manifestations. I am Lisa, the infinite ocean of bliss and peace. I am Bogo, Jada, Galamaku, the essence that never dies. I am Sugbelisa. So this is a quote from African Evelo. I just thought I should read it because of the paragraph we are reading, and then Amu's introduction, Brother Anu's introduction to us. Raspala, please carry on. Thank you.
Giving thanks, my elder, for the good words for Africa. Also to the speakers, and also mostly appreciating the mothers of Africa here in the platform. Yes. Okay. Basically, from this text, is that what I can say is that the great Kwame Nkrumah knew exactly why he had this man here, because this white man, Sigmund Freud, is the one who basically came with more African-centered concept of the human mind, which were concepts that were already there in ancient Egypt in our archives. So in this paragraph, he says here, I'll just skip to the second one. He says, on the one hand, it is because the individual does not consciously remember everything that psychoanalysis was necessary as a probe into the subconscious and the unconscious. On the other hand, it is because nothing was really forgotten. So I'll just stop there. So as you can hear from what he's saying here, with the great Nkwame about psychoanalysis and the theories that Sigmund Freud came with, I actually correct, because first of all, I asked myself when this was read that it makes sense. Why would we have stories, so-called myths, stories about the ancient Black people who built the pyramids and everything? And that memory of that construction of those pyramids in Egypt is stored within us as the Black people, in our DNA. So this issue of memory and DNA correlates. I think the elder is asked here the question that how is memory stored in the physical brain? Well, it is stored in the DNA, and the DNA is found within all the organs or the skin pigments or the bodily materials of us has a bit of a DNA sample of us. That's why even when the police want you, if they just get a piece of hair of yours, they can be able to determine who that hair belongs to. If they have your database in the computer of your DNA sample and they get a piece of your hair somewhere around the country, they can exactly link you with that DNA data, because the DNA is the one which specifically classifies which species you come from which family you come from the African family, which clan you come from. That all that information is stored in the DNA. So I agree 100% with this text, more especially when I close, more especially in the context of psychoanalysis and unconsciousness or subconscious activities. Because when you look at the phenomena, if I can put it that word, of deja vu, so the world's so-called deja vu, where you have a dream of something, of an event, and then weeks or days or years later, that exact event you dreamt of happens, and your conscious or your conscious tells you, in fact, that, hey, man, you said this before, yo. So I believe that these activities, even though we know there's more we're going to read about it, but I believe it to be accurate, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have now heard from everyone. Everyone has shared their thinking. So we have a choice. Brother Pigeon, you haven't shared your thinking. Are you able to speak now? Yeah. Yeah. What is the reason for your radio sound? Yeah. Try speaking, let's see. Not sure why. Try speaking, let's see. No, it's not good. Okay, so sorry, but I don't know why it's the case. So Brother Pigeon can't speak, and Brother Pigeon is the only one who Brother Coco can now speak. Brother Coco, yeah, please carry on.
Greetings, comrades. Apologies. Apologies, I've been busy, but listening to some of the discussions. In fact, the minute I saw that paragraph, I tried to get in touch with Professor Mafule Smatlani, trying to see if he can join, because this is his field, is what he's always talking about.
Wonderful.
He's always talking about trauma, and this is how we carry trauma. We carry trauma, as my brother Raspala has rightly said, in our DNA. It moves from just being a memory into being embedded in our DNA through a process called epigenetics, which is beyond me. But I think as I read this paragraph, I remembered the letter of Willie Lynch. That letter of Willie Lynch is traumatizing, just reading it. But the methods which they used there were what they used the fear to sort of control the enslaved Africans, to make sure the enslaved Africans were driven by fear to do what their then slave masters wanted them to do. It's part of that because it meant it was carried from the mother to the children. And then the children, when they were older, they will carry that forth, on and so forth, intergenerationally. And I think it's the same as we speak now. We're talking about colonialism in Africa, where most of us are saying colonization ended. In fact, some of us will say we were born after colonization ended. But we know that there are remnants of colonization that continue in Africa, including the language. So right now, most of us are using European languages. And through those European languages, we are carrying forth instruments of colonizations amongst us, and we continue to divide ourselves. And not long ago, I was reading Class Struggle. I don't know why I just said that to it, Dr. Nkuma's Class Struggle, because in it, he actually shows how neocolonialism operates, because they use the African bourgeoisie. That African bourgeoisie didn't just spring up from anywhere. Those are the people who came through their fathers or their grandparents or their forefathers were favored by the colonizer. And then they felt superior. And they used that as an element of supremacy amongst themselves. And they still see the white master as more of their master than the Africans themselves. I know Dr. Nkuma is quoting Freud. We don't want to talk about Freud, but we're talking about conscious and subconscious memory. We are talking about trauma, which is usually imprinted in our subconscious. We have that dual pathway, as they call it. It's a fight or flight. With a fight, you want to fight whatever it is you encounter and are able to conquer it. So that way you are able to stop the trauma passing on to the future generations. With the flight, you're sort of passing that forth. You continue to pass that forth to the future generations. And Professor Sigmund, when he talks about this, he calls it excess fear, because fear is natural. Fear is there. As a human, we are built with that fight or flight. And if we have adequate amounts of fear in our being, we are able to control and navigate lots of things throughout the day. But once we have an excess fear, we cannot do anything. It sort of paralyzes us. We can't even think. And that fear is stored within our subconscious memory. So just to close, I'll quote another teacher. He's not African, but he is Sadhguru, who is a guru from India. He always says this, that we are made up of thoughts and memories. So the memories that we have of our forefathers, we carry them with us. They say, you look at your nose, you just see what your grandfather looked like. You look at your mouth, you see what your ancestor somewhere looked like. And then the thoughts are the fear that we internalize. We sort of use those fears to navigate. And if those fears are unfounded, we end up with anxiety, lots of anxiety. We can't do anything, and we are paralyzed like that way. So we just have to realize what it is that is really troubling us. Is it something which can happen? Is it something that cannot happen? And who are we? It's important to know ourselves. It's important to know what drives us as Africans. Let me stop here, because this is not my field. It's Professor Simatlani and Sadhguru's field more than mine. But this is my contribution for tonight.
If you're able to bring him, please do, so that we can hear from him. In the meantime, Brother Coco, and there will be a Lynch letter. Let me ask you a question. So, could we say that in the end, the Willie Leach model didn't work, because it worked for a while, but the ascendants of the Africans overcame it and liberated themselves?
I'm not going to say definitely it worked or it didn't work, but what I know is that they managed to continue with slavery for a while. So that slavery managed to continue until the Africans rose up. Yes, it means partly you can say some Africans were able to fight against that. But again, there was the element of Haiti which came outside. I don't know if they were implementing the same systems of Willie Lynch in Haiti or the Caribbean, but Willie Lynch is claimed to have come from Barbados. So probably they were using the same methods in the Caribbean. But I think let's digress a bit to come to Africa. You'll find that where slavery was practiced in most cases, the people moved away. The people have moved away because they knew that those were danger areas. And people lived in fear. It means they transferred that fear to their descendants. So it continued on and on. That inherited fear continued. It stayed on. But you can argue that, yes, there are ways in which you can conquer the fear. And there are ways in which someone can break that intergenerational trauma.
My other question, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, is we talk about the trauma of slavery, the trauma of the Middle Passage, the trauma of enslavement, and so on. But as dialecticians, do you not think that we also ought to take into account the trauma on the other side? What I mean is that white supremacy itself is an expression of trauma, but we don't seem to talk a lot about that?
No, it's a very good question. You could argue that what they were doing to other people is a result of that trauma, because if you look at the other continents had enough food to go about, right? They had sufficient land, sufficient resources, but they went through difficulties. They had to be who they were because of the difficulties they went through, the Black Death, the shortage of land, and then the hierarchy which they had, in which most of their land was owned by a few individuals and the others were not owning land. Then they had to look somewhere else. So there was always that fear of what's going to happen. And again, the competition amongst them, the competition between the French and the British, for instance, is what brought most of the carnage happening in Africa. You could argue the Portuguese, okay, they had Mozambique, Angola, Sao Tome, and Cape Verde, but majority of that is between the French and the English. Okay, the Germans came in late to the party. In fact, is the reason why in the end we had the First World War, because the Germans had only a few colonies and they wanted more. They wanted more. So there was that trauma, that fear, that what can I do? Should I get more? It's they are always looking for more resources, whereas the resources are there, but it's how those resources can be allocated. But the greed that they have makes them such that they want to have everything. They want to keep everything. That's why they have billionaires. Those billionaires, what do they need the billions of dollars for? Can they live on those billions of dollars even if they live like a billion years? They can't. But they just have to have that. It comes with that competition nature, the fear of losing, and they have to always be winning.
So brother Coco, the reason I mentioned this is that I was going to ask brother Anu whether he also met Dr. Chris Welsing when he was in the US studying. But the reason I mentioned this is because we talk about the Black trauma a lot, but I don't hear a lot about the fear on the other side. Why supremacy expresses itself in the violence and the disrespect and so on as it does, and why, for instance, the whole movement, the whole MAGA movement arose. That fear. So so dialectically it may be good for us to balance that. But the reason I'm also raising that is why are we looking at this? Why is Nkrumah drawing our attention to Sigmund Freud and psychoanalysis, conscious, subconscious, and conscious, and all that? Why is he doing that? I just realized that Welcome hasn't spoken yet, and he's very quiet. Welcome, you have to speak. So, Rakoko, thank you very much for your contribution. Welcome, please say something.
Yeah, this passage by Sigmund Freud is one of those master keys that will unlock the decolonization, total decolonization and development of Africa. Because in fact, we don't know what we know. We know so much, but they are laying there tacitly in our subconscious and they need to be triggered. For instance, through psychoanalysis, so that we can come up and start to practice what we know. the trauma that we have been talking about, we wouldn't know if it was, for instance, not attributable to this passage that, in fact, we do suffer from some trauma, and that affects our daily life and how we approach and try to seek solutions for problems that we have. And this is a very big passage. And I believe that's why Dr. Nkrumah has decided to bring it to the fore, to amplify it, so that we can delve deeper into our own psyche, into our own conscious. And that will help us lay the way forward. That will help us travel through a smoother path towards what we want to achieve. Thank you.
Okay. So on the question of remembering, there is a belief that to learn or to study is just to remember things. And for those of us who remember, we looked at Socrates and Meno. If you remember, we used that as an example. And Meno was a slave, and he was summoned by Socrates. And Socrates was able to demonstrate what is today called the Pythagorean theorem.
Yes.
Using Meno. And he just asked Meno questions. And even Meno was a slave. Meno was able to recall that theorem, which says that the two sides of a right angle triangle, when squared, there's two smaller sides, when squared, is equal to the
longer side.
Yeah, square of the longer side. So Socrates showed that all you're doing is remembering things. So then, brother, as you said, then brother Ras Pala is telling us that the knowledge is not stored in the brain or in the body, that is stored in the DNA. So then that tells us that the DNA, as DNA is matter and not spirit, that the DNA is the storehouse. In other words, the storehouse of human knowledge and its persistence through the ages is the DNA. And so that is something for us to think about. There are two hands up. I think everybody has now spoken. Brother Weka, you want to come back? Feel free to come back, and then we'll hear from others. Yeah.
Yes. Is the brain, is the DNA really the storehouse, or is the brain the storehouse, and then the storehouse passes on to the DNA because the DNA is immortal?
But Brother Weka, remember that in the womb, it is the DNA that creates the brain. Yeah. And the brain is when the stem cells, when they differentiate themselves. So initially, all the cells in the fetus are the same, but as the fetus grows, the cells subdivide, and then they take on their various roles. So some become the brain cells, some become the stomach, some become the lung, and so on and so forth. But before that differentiation, all the cells are the same. They can do any function before that specialization comes. And once the specialization happens and the fetus grows, the fetus reaches a point where it now has the structures to then leave the womb and enter the physical world. So the brain is created in the womb anyway. That's all I know. If anybody knows more than me, they can come in and say so. So the brain creates the brain is created by the DNA. So the DNA has all the, if you like, the template for what brain I should have. So when I was in my mother's womb, the DNA from the fertilized egg of my parent and my father, that DNA is what decided this is what his brain will be like, this is what his leg will be like, and so on and so forth. So the DNA in that is a storehouse of generational knowledge, if you like.
And the people with dementia and Alzheimer's, why do they tend to forget more the things that are distant in their past rather than the current one?
But even people with dementia even forget in this world. Don't even go into the previous world. Even in this world, they forget how to dementia and the other one. They forget how to tie their shoelace, even though they knew it earlier. So even in this world, it happens. But anyway, that is a topic for another time. But thank you for raising it. There are a few hands up. There are now 3 hands up. So let me start with the sister, because I think now she can speak. Sister Myra.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Apologies, I was in the gym and the music was loud, but I'm now the way home. So if you hear noises, it's because I'm walking. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on this paragraph. When it was being read out, the first thing that came to my mind was for the colonizers, they have the privilege of knowing that nothing is forgotten, and they understand, they know this, they understand it, that it's just that not everything is consciously remembered. But when it comes to us, the Black global family, they say, oh, no. Your history has nothing to do with today. Slave trade, forget about it. Colonialism, no. We're now here, we're all happy, But obviously, we understand that, like the previous speakers have all hinted at, that our history is still in us and with us. And they seem to understand the psychology. And that's why I appreciated the contribution from Brother Anu, because I'm also an aspiring student of African counseling and spirituality. And I hope to start my course soon. And I've also listened to teachers like Cresswell Singh and Amon Wilson and Bobby E. Wright. And they all stress that we have to understand the psychology of our enemies, of our invaders. You asked Brother Kwame, why is it that we understand Black trauma, but we don't talk about white trauma? Because Bobby E. Wright mentioned this. He said, we don't study them, and yet they study us. They have all these Black studies, that, Black studies. Is there one institute that says that we're studying European studies from the African view? No. So we also have to study them and understand the people that we are fighting psychologically. We have to understand the psychology. I think that's been my main point, that we have to understand the psychology. And I think here, Teacher Nkrumah is telling us we cannot forget our past because it's still a part of us. It's still making us who we are. We need to understand our past to understand who we are now. I know I've heard of Africans that say, I've had it myself, oh, why are we bothering with history? We don't need history. And I think, Brother Kwame, you captured that very well in the introduction to this session. But we need to understand our history. We need to understand the psychology of what has happened. But we also need to understand the psychology of the system and the perpetrators of that system that we are fighting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let me remind us all again, maybe we'll have to pick this up on one of our Saturday sessions, which is the role, the contribution of our sister, our late sister, Dr. Cresswell Singh, because some of us forget, and that we need to study the Caucasian mind, and as Sister Mara has mentioned, and understanding the Caucasian mind is crucial. And some of our brothers and sisters have laid the groundwork for us. And one of them is Dr. Cresswell Singh. If you want to understand the psychology, the inner psychology of the Caucasian, then read the Cress theory of color confrontation. because everything is there. Everything is there. If you haven't read it yet, then you have a lot to read. And that book has it all, and it explains things that if you're on the continent, it may never even have crossed your mind. Even if you're in the West, sometimes it doesn't. The time is 8:43. We've now heard from everyone, so I think we'll just have a discussion. But I want to ask my question again, and I want someone to answer it. Why has Nkrumah raised this question, this paragraph for us? And I've asked
Brother
it.
Kwame.
I think yes. Brother Pigeon, your line is now very clear. Please share your thinking. Let's see.
Thank you. I had to switch. Yeah, I had to switch to my phone, so I'm using the phone now as another device getting through this. But of course, I'm projecting via the laptop. So thank you. It's been interesting. I was actually not ready to miss sharing my thinking on this text. First, permit me to appreciate Brother Anu. Brother Anu is a friend we've met for the last around 1 or 2 months. We are trying to do some projects together, and there are so many things he's doing. So that's how I think he came to be part of our class. They are part of the new members who join our broadcast list. So thank you, Brother Anu, for that.
Yeah, just so you know, I have since gone to his website, which is shared in the chat. So those of us who are not aware, Brother Anu has shared his link in the chat. So please do visit that site. It's a very interesting site. Thank you, Brother Pigeon. Please continue.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, it's part of my student in my Swahili class, but we are doing together something with the Caribbean and Kenya as well. I've also shared in the chat the book by Dr. Kress, ISIS Papers, Keys to Colors. So for those who might be able to download that and maybe start to read this. As a teacher, I learned about psychology as a basic courses during my my training as a teacher. And
We've lost you, Brother Pigeon.
Yeah, I was wondering whether he's coming back. Let's wait for him to come back. He's now using his phone and his laptop, so you can imagine. Okay, whilst he's rejoining, let's hear from Brother Joseph. Brother Joseph, yeah.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, you speak. Brother PG will join. He's trying to rejoin.
Just a little frustrated. Sometimes when I want to make a contribution, I'm not allowed. I mean, I've noted that consistently.
Not allowed.
Anyway.
Sorry,
No,
hold on, brother, hold on. Not allowed by whom?
No, because you said there were 3 people hands up. You said you would give the woman, the female, the woman the chance.
That's correct.
And then you just went off. I mean, similarly,
Brother,
when you ask the question, no, let me finish.
Go on.
We have to be fair. We have to be fair. When you ask the question about, why would Freud,
the philosophical question.
And I wanted to answer. I wanted to give a thing. You shut me off. But anyway, let's leave that there.
No, I won't leave it, Brother Joseph. Hold on. No, I'm not leaving it, Brother Joseph. Hold on. Brother Joseph.
No, please.
Brother Joseph, hold on.
This is not the first time.
Brother Joseph, hold on. You see, so as you know, initially when we read, we all share our thinking and we give that priority. Then after the sharing of the thinking, then we can come in with discussions. Sometimes we go on to the next paragraph, depending on what we've read. But it's never, I don't think, I haven't shared very much because, as you know, when I'm teaching, I don't usually even come to the class on time. So Brother Pigeon has mostly done the sharing. But if you feel that you have been kind of shut out or not allowed to speak, on behalf of CSG, I would like to profusely apologize.
You don't apologize, but this is just consistent for me.
Yeah,
there's an African proverb that says, "Don't spend the evening where you can't spend the night," and some may feel that way. Anyway, let me make a thing. First of all, I want someone said about Lynch. No, Lynch wasn't from Barbados. Lynch was from Jamaica. He developed his thing in Jamaica and then went and elaborated in the States, in the southern states, about how to control the black, based on the color stuff. The other thing about it, a sister or someone mentioned Sadhguru. And while the question and thing was being asked, I was thinking even about Sadhguru. So even I think Brother Coco that mentioned Sadhguru. Also, I think that's good because it means that some of us are reading widely also. I'm saying that to say, in some quarters, it is believed that believe and live as that we are not just one body. We have more than one body. There is the actual body, there is the psychological body, there is the mental body, and you might say that idealist. But I mean, we could examine the thing to make sense about consciousness and so on, why people, what happens, the deterioration of the brain. It's good that somebody mentioned about Alzheimer's, because that's another thing we should look at. So much of our people are falling victim to Alzheimer's and also dementia. But we have to understand that a lot of our education was influenced by the narrow thinking of those people who control us. It is established now, but it has been established very clearly that you could have trauma up to 14 generations. Up to 14 generations, they have discovered through research and so on, up to 14 generations. And well, trauma is very broadly. I mean, you have trauma from coming from historic, that way you inherit, and then trauma from the way you were born, when you were conceived, all those things affect people. The talk was happening. We were talking about in the womb, about the brain and the thing in the womb. What about if the condition that the woman is facing, the environment, the hostility, the stress, like a lot of African American people experience, the racism and thing affects the whole consciousness, all of these things, because it is not as cut and dry as we say, as we think it is. It's more complex. And I think if we really allow ourselves to be a little more open, we will see that it's not as simple as we say in Moscow. You could never finish understanding this thing. Finally, I would say, in terms of, and I'm glad somebody mentioned the idea of studying the Caucasian people. But we should not only study the Caucasian people. First of all, we have to begin with ourselves, but then study other people. I heard a Chinese professor recently saying that he did some studies, studying the whole thing about, whether there was a separate origin of Chinese people. And he couldn't find that. He said, everything goes right back to Africa. A Chinese professor saying that. And also, recently I was listening to something where they say the effect of the cold, of the ice age on the folks who are now known as Caucasian affects their ability to deal with the people of the sun. All of those things, we need to really factor in those things and then pay attention to what is being revealed now. People like Dr. Bruce Lipton, and in one of your programs here, he was mentioned by one of the guys. And also people like, although they are not black, people like the guy who wrote the book, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And finally, in terms of white, there's a number of literature written about white, the fear of the white and the effect on white, whatever it is that is written. And people like the guy who wrote My Grandmother's Hand and so on, all of these are very instructive books we can read to help us to understand why these folks behave the way they behave. But we had to, I said finally, let me just say this finally, Malcolm X said that we are not outnumbered. What has happened is happening, we are out-organized. And organization includes understanding the forces that you have to deal with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Joseph. Can I ask you though, Brother Joseph, is there anything you've said that you think anybody here disagrees with?
No, it's not a matter of disagree. It's a matter when, I mean, people have to make contribution and they want, I mean, it's not one, even one of the reasons why I got pissed off from this group here is when I made a contribution sometime in September, October, August, I wasn't even allowed to give a wrap up. I mean, we have to be consistent. We accuse other people of behavior that is not good or fair. We have to be consistent with other people. We may not be conscious of it. I'm not saying it's deliberate, but it could be frustrating.
Okay. So you feel you haven't been given enough time
I
to
want to make
talk.
a contribution. I'm not allowed.
I see. Okay. Since this meeting is chaired by myself and Brother Pigeon mostly, we've taken note of your concerns, and we shall do better. Because we pride, respect, and love and so on in this meeting, and if any of us feels aggrieved, it's of concern to us. So once again, Brother Joseph, I apologize on behalf of CSG. We will do better. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add before I move to Brother Pigeon, Brother Joseph?
No, I just think where we need to deepen the conversation and see that the contribution that Freud make, and the others, even the guy who wrote the book In Search of Man's Search for Meaning, all of these should be helpful to us to understand the human mind, the human condition, and what we are, the potential, what is possible. And I agree with the person, I think was sister, the sister who spoke last.
Yes, Sister Portia.
Yeah, Sister Portia. That I'm forgetting what I'm saying. That we had to find a way to remember what we know. In fact, I could show you scripture. I mean, I don't like to deal with religion, but that shows you clue about what we're talking about. It's written in biblical scriptural terms. This thing is a very fascinating thing, and that's why in India and so on, they teach their folks from the Hindu point of view. They teach their folks from children not to see themselves as just the small little body they have and the family, but to see themselves as as connected to the cosmos. So if the cosmos energy
Brother Joseph, can I ask you?
Yeah.
Can I ask your last question? Because we only have 5 minutes left before I move to Brother Pigeon for the final contribution. Why do you think Nkrumah brings this topic up at this point, according to the text?
I think he wants us to be broad-minded. Simple.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Let's hear from Brother Pigeon, who has had challenges.
Brother Kwame, can you hear me?
Internet. Yes, brother. We've missed. You are now. Yeah. Please go on. We've got only 4 minutes left. So please carry on.
I'll use 1 minute. I said that I am conscious of the psychology as a teacher on some of these philosophers or what they were writing as psychologists. But again, when you ask about we studying why the white men did what they did to us, I'll also say as part of what you call in psychology projection. So there's a sense of you feeling some level of either being so inferior, and then you project that feeling to the next person. So when you react, you're trying to project your anger to somebody else. So probably as you're saying, yes, there's a need to analyze that, whether what they were doing was out of some anger, some self, whatever, that then they projected their thinking to us, and then we suffered in the process. But I think what Nkrumah is bringing here is us to wake up. That in order for us as Africans to wake up and decolonize ourselves, we must go to an extra mile to tap to the subconscious mind. Is that whatever we need to liberate, unite, and develop Africa is within us. We either need to do the psychoanalysis, but we need to go deeper and dig to our unconscious mind to know who we are. And what Brother Coco was talking about, fear and fear, I think in Gen Z in Kenya here, they said when we lose our fear, they lose their power. Because the moment you overcome what is in the dark side of the mind, in the subconscious level, and you be able to face it, then it means that you overcome your fear and go deep to face yourself and with your realities, you see. And until we dig deeper to that level, probably Nkrumah is bringing this here to know that the struggle of our consciousness has to go to the subconscious level, because education that was given to us was actually also affecting our subconscious level, but in one way or the other, it did not go deep. So still who we are is there somewhere at the back of our brain. Who we are or who you truly are is here. What my white man or their education taught us who we are did not erode who we are in reality or in truth. So we must go to dig deeper so that we can untap to our unconscious and subconscious mind, so that then we can actually come strong and do what we are supposed to do, which is to decolonize Africa. That's what I wanted to say briefly. Thank you.
Thank you. So isn't that what the pouring of libation is meant to symbolize? Because when you pour libation, you invoke the past as if it is today. But isn't that what the general theory of relativity, Einstein's theory, was also about, which you will find in chapter 4 of this book? Brothers and sisters, we've come to the end of today's session. Yes, Nkrumah has drawn our attention to this paragraph. And why he has done it is in the last sentence, which is that it's about behavior. It's about how we behave. And this paragraph, as you know, and the paragraph before, is still talking about morality. And when we say morality, we're not saying it's good or bad. It's just the rules of conduct, the rules of conduct. So thank you very much. We've come to the end of the session. Brother Pigeon will give us the announcements, and then we'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you. Brother Pigeon.
Yeah, thank you so much, comrades. Despite of the challenges I've been facing, I want to thank everybody who actually joined us today. I want to thank also everybody who turned out to our Africa Liberation Day. I know Brother Kwame has recognized those who did that. Those who did their presentation, we appreciate you so much. We are actually going to do our annual Zoom subscription coming up very soon. So we might be reaching out to some of us to see how we can walk together this journey as soon as possible. But generally, what we want to say that we appreciate your presence, your contribution, and all the journey we've been together now, almost marking now another 1 year. We are crossing to the 4th year, Brother Kwame, maybe next week, so that we will be reading for the 4th year. That says you how going deep to this. And Brother Kwame has done it for over 20 years and the rest. So doing the same thing without getting bored is very important. So thank you very much.
Brother Kwame, have no fear.
Brother Kwame, I will believe that you'll help me get some of the template of schedule. Sometimes I do miss it, my fingertip, what we do next on Saturdays. But as I say that
this Saturday it's market integration.
Oh, market integration. Yes, market integration. Yeah. But I will say that all the recording of these classes will be available by next week. In fact, I've uploaded the last week recordings by today. So sometimes when I share it with you directly, if you find sometimes, please also share it out so that you can reach to more people. We have so far recorded over 253 recordings, the highest actually in some of the study groups in the YouTube. But this is just knowledge storage. So this is the storage of data we are putting so that you can always refer to this. So we are doing market, all about the market on this coming Saturday. And next Tuesday, we are going on with the Kiswahili class that is almost at an advanced stage towards the end. It's been running for almost 1 year as well. And then Thursday, we'll go back to continue this. I actually highlighted this Sigmund section without going to other section because it was a clear paragraph coming alone. So I never wanted to mix with the other paragraphs. Next time, we'll look to other paragraphs. So thank you very much for all who have actually shared their thinking. Once again, we appreciate you and we thank you. And let's meet again this Saturday for another conversation. May you have a blessed evening to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brother Pigeon, Brother Kwame, can we suggest that people subscribe to the videos when you watch them and keep watching, please? Thank you. Thank you all. Good night.
Night. All. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.